Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Dare Dallas webinar. And as you can see, I'm not in the office, and my lovely friend Aurelia Turrell is also not in the office today. We're actually in not so sunny Guernsey at the moment, where we've been for a few days working on some valuations. So good morning, Aurelia, how are you?
Good morning. Very well, thank you.
Good.
Really happy to be in Guernsey and doing these valuations.
Lovely, isn't it? So today we're going to talk about garnets. Now, it's part of your series of webinars that we're doing, which is A is for
Ametrine. We've just posted D for diopside, so have a look at that if you haven't already. And today it's all about garnets, and garnets are one of the most loved and ancient gems talked about in history. They're actually the first gems to be mentioned in the Bible. Now, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this properly, but in Hebrew they were called lofek. So apologies if that's not the way you're supposed to say that. And it's said that it was actually Noah's only source of light in the ark. And it's also the same gem that was given to King Solomon by God. So it has all these important significations, importance in the Bible. It's believed that the oldest garnet jewel is about 5,000 BC. From 5000 BC, found in a mummy. In a mummy? On a mummy.
In a tomb?
In a tomb. And then throughout history, it's been used in various ways. So the Romans used to use these gems to seal their important documents. They would put wax on their rings, which were set with garnets, carved garnets usually. And we've actually got an example here of a intaglio ring that sells for almost £8,000. So really quite desirable, that history.
So when these garnets were used for intaglios, obviously they were carved. Was that a common thing with garnets to be
Exactly.
kind of engraved?
Exactly. So carved. So intaglios usually representing gods. In this instance, it's Jupiter. And so this was just a common thing to do, and showed the importance of who you were, and obviously having such gems wasn't given to everybody. So very important, significant social status as well. So that was one of the examples of the garnets in red, but they come in all sorts of colours. We've got greens, orange, red, and some purplish red as well. And because there's so many different ones, that they've been attributed different names. So some green garnets are tsavorite, and in fact they were called after a reserve in Kenya, which was found by a British geologist in just before 1970, 1967, and it was named tsavorite after somebody who worked at Tiffany and Company at the time,
really?
Harry Platt, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one of the green garnets, but there are different types, and we have the Demantoid Garnets, which possibly my favourite one because it can have a very special inclusion in it called a horsetail. So what's an inclusion to start with?
Yeah, it's a good place to start.
An inclusion, some call it imperfections. I don't like that word at all. It's any material that's been trapped in the gem during its formation.
Character.
Exactly. Yeah, like a fingerprint. So unique to every stone. And these Demantoid garnets sometimes have these horsetails. And so what they are just sort of golden feathery inclusions made of chrysolite, and they curve, and then you get this opening that looks like the horse, the tail of a horse. So that's one I really like. And then when we move to the slightly more purplish red, they're called Rhodolite. We also have Almandine Pyrope, all sorts of names. And then if you go into the more orangey type of garnets, we have the name of spessartite, almandine, and hessonite. So lots of different.
Because I think for people like me who aren't jewellery experts, when I think of a garnet, I think of predominantly, and you're probably going to pick me up on this, predominantly small little stones in a 9-carat Edwardian ring. Is that wrong?
Yes, well, not at all. And that is when they were the most popular.
Yeah.
Actually, they were made extremely popular mid-16th century when there was a new mining site found in Central Europe. So they were set in all these beautiful corsage pieces. And we have an example here, this This item here was sold with a pair of earrings at Bonhams in 2010, and it sold for just under £20,000, including premium. Now, that was over 10 years ago. If you were to go to a jeweller now, you're probably looking £40,000 for it. So,
which, to be honest, and I'm again not a jeweller, but for something that is a garnet set piece, it seems a lot of money.
yes, but it's because of that history that's behind it, and that the meaning of it, and the way it was set. In this example, it's a carbuncle, which is a type of faceting of the stone. Well, in ancient history, it used to represent all red stones, but the word carbuncle has then been used traditionally for garnets, and garnets set in this sort of antique jewellery. Yeah, and it's a popular stone as well because it's got a relatively good hardness, and it's about 6.5 to 7.5 on the Moss scale. So what is the Moss scale? Again, the Moss scale was invented by Frederick Moss in, 1822. There we go. And it determines the hardness of any mineral material. And it's used across the board for your mobile phones, for example. The glass used on there, exactly, it is about a 6 or a 7. So it can scratch. So it's used for many different things. And to give you an example, diamond is number 10 on that scale.
Right. So is that well, we're going slightly off subject, but is that the hardest stone?
So that's the hardest. Yeah. It would take a diamond to cut a diamond.
Right.
And then number 1 is talcum powder. Very soft.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
So garnet it's sort of
in the
middle, high.
Okay.
Yeah. So it makes it a popular choice for jewellery.
So, current market and use of things like garnets, where are they being used at the moment? What's they being used for?
Yeah, so very, very popular in all sorts of jewellery, hardware and jewellery, rings and earrings and things like that. They are stable, which means they won't lose their colour or break so easily. So they're always a good choice for jewellery that you wear every day. They can be treated, so sometimes they have fractures, and they are treated with some filler to hide that.
Is this when there's a glass injection into it or something like that?
Exactly. They add something to hide that flaw, but it can be detected by a gemologist with a loupe, and if you put it in the right angle, you get these flashes of colour, and that's how you can pick up on it. But you would never be able to see it with the naked eye.
Okay.
But generally, it's safe to assume that they're not treated. But whether or not they're treated or not will have an impact on the economic.
Yeah, so the value. Basically. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. But they're a very popular choice. I mean, just to give you an example, we've got Fabergé, big fan of the Demantoid Garnet, and this is an example here of the halo ring, which is selling for just under £35,000.
That's a new price.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Selling at the moment for just under £35,000, mounted in platinum, and it's got a 2.5 carat Demantoid Garnet. And in this example, it comes with a certificate from SSEF, which states that actually the stone has been enhanced. It has been heated to improve its colour. So even wet, yeah.
I mean, we've touched briefly on heat treatment in some of our other videos, but can you just give us a quick overview of what heat treatment actually involves and what it does?
Well, it will recreate some of the conditions in which the stone was created, and it will slightly alter, not the chemical composition, but the way the atoms are set. Therefore, the colour will change slightly, and it can, in this case, give it a brighter green, if you like. So that's why they would do it. But nonetheless, it still comes with a hefty price tag.
It's not a cheap ring, and it's not when, as I say, when I think of garnets, I think of, a 5-stone Victorian Edwardian ring with some red gun. I mean, in terms of colours, red, I suppose, is still the most commonly used one, or does it vary wildly?
It varies a lot. So green, like I said, that green is a very important, expensive stone, but we have the more common stones which come in a slightly larger size, like rhodolite. So yes, you do move on to the slightly more reddish purplish orange type stones. And Fabergé again sells this ring for just under £1,000. So the same company will use different types of garnets for very different prices. And they're used for various different purposes. You can also sculpt. Not everybody can sculpt the garnets. But a creator, Manfred Wild, for example, created this exquisite piece, which was up for auction with an estimate of $300,000 to $400,000.
Gosh.
Now, it didn't sell. Nonetheless, that was the estimate.
Right. Okay.
And that's what they were expecting it to fetch. Now, it's a collector's market, so you can
pick their price better. Yeah,
that's it.
absolutely.
That's it. So there's a multitude of colours and cuts and shapes and all of that, which makes garnets a really popular choice, and a good choice, I think, for anybody who's looking to pick a piece of jewellery. Now, it's just the question you need to ask yourself is, what colour to go with what outfit? There we go.
That's the question I'll be asking myself, no doubt, very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for joining us for one of our short A is for apple, B is for beetroot, or anything like that in terms of our series on stones. So please do join us for our next instalment, and goodbye from a rather chilly and a little bit windy Guernsey. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.